UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said yesterday that the world is going through a revolution in the Middle East that is no less transformative than the Velvet Revolution of 1989. We now know that the 1989 revolution was planned far in advance. Everyone is wondering if the Middle East version is planned as well. We'll talk about it today on Politics and Religion.
Look, there are two things I don't discuss: politics and religion.
In my house, we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion.
I'll talk to you about anything except politics and religion.
I never talk about politics and religion.
Politics determines how we'll live here on Earth. Religion determines how we'll live forever. I'm Irvin Baxter. I think it's time we talk about it.
Well, things around the world just get more and more interesting. I'm broadcasting today from Santa Ana, California. I will be appearing on the Dr. Paul Crouch program this evening on TBN. That will be from 9 to 11 p.m. tonight, Central Time. Of course, that would be 7 to 9 out here in California time. But anyway, 9 to 11 Central Time, and you can figure out your particular time zone from there. That's tonight, that's Tuesday, and then on Thursday I will be on Daystar with Marcus and Jelly Lamb from 11 to 12, and that's on March the 31st. So a lot of things going on. In the meantime, on Saturday, I will be back out here in Spokane, Washington. That's the 2nd of April. We will be at the Red Lion Hotel at the park, 303 West North River Drive in Spokane. We come to that same location every year. It will be at 6 p.m. Saturday evening. We would like for you to register. If you can, give us a call. The number to call is 1-800-END-TIME. Always have a great time meeting all the people of Spokane, so we'll look forward to being with you for this great prophecy conference. I will be speaking on Will Islam Rule the World, and will the Antichrist be a Muslim? People are talking, they're wondering the way the world events are going right now. They want to know what's going to happen, and we will be giving you answers from the Bible. The Bible specifically answers these questions, so that will be this coming Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Today we're going to talk about an interesting statement by the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. He said in an article that was just published yesterday that the world faces epochal change equivalent to that of 1989. Now, you know that 1989 changed the face of the world. Many people think that the New World Order began in 1989. 10 years, one decade from the fall of the Berlin Wall, Merrill Lynch took out a full-page ad in USA Today and said the world is 10 years old today. In the mind of the executives of Merrill Lynch, the world was born on November the 9th of 1989 with the fall of the Berlin Wall. Mr. Tony Blair, I recently read from some of his work. He stated that globalization began on 1989. And do you know the Bible states that when the Berlin Wall came down and the two Germanys were reunited, that would be the thing that would give birth to the end-time world government over which the Antichrist and the false prophet will ultimately rule. So there are so many things pointing to this pivotal event. Well, now then Mr. Ban Ki-moon is saying what's happening now in the Middle East is equivalent to what happened in the Velvet Revolution of 1989. Now, we've put together quite a documentary proving that the Velvet Revolution of 1989 was a planned event, and that's available to you. It's the 10th DVD in our 10-lesson series. If you have the 10-lesson series, then you have it. However, you can order this as part of the series, which we do recommend, or else you could get it individually. It's simply called the one world government. So I misspoke. It's called the one world religion, and that is lesson number 10 in our Understanding End Time series. So it's the one world religion, and it will hold you spellbound as we weave the story of what happened between 1959 and 1989, the story of the secret meetings behind the scenes and how the Mikhail Gorbachev and Pope John Paul II planned the fall of the Berlin Wall. Absolute proof. You will be astonished. Anyway, if you're interested in that DVD, give us a call. The number to call is 1-800-END-TIME, or you can get the entire 10-lesson set, and I do really recommend for you to do that if you can. So let's look a little bit closer at what Mr. Ban Ki-moon had to say. The world is facing an important shift in global history, which is no less transformative. There's that name, that word that's being used so much these days, transformative, than the epical year of 1989 when numerous governments fell across Eastern Europe. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said today, speaking of yesterday, speaking at the General Assembly, where he introduced an address by Italian President Napolitano, Mr. Ban noted that the world is witnessing a period of revolution. He recently returned from a visit to Egypt and Tunisia, where long-standing regimes were toppled by a wave of pro-democracy protests that have engulfed much of North Africa and the Middle East and have led to fierce fighting in Libya. Okay, now let's pause just a moment. There's some more to this, but let's pause a moment. What are we saying here? We know what the prophecies tell us is coming. At the same time, anyone who loves freedom would be in favor of people throwing off dictators and being able to chart their own course, if that is indeed the outcome. Now, we've tried to set this up in Iraq, and we're still struggling. Another huge killing today. 50 people or so were killed in a bombing today in Iraq, and it just seems to go on and on. I think our government would like to make us think that the involvement there has been successful, but the fact is it's still very much the war is raging. We have tried to step out and confine our boys and girls, the service people there, to their bases. We've tried to hike all this over to the Iraqi soldiers. However, it's still very, very bloody there. Well, bottom line is, any time that freedom reigns, we love it. I'm sure you feel the exact same way that I do. So as we're watching the overthrow of a 30-year dictator by the name of Mubarak, who was pro-Western, which we appreciated, yet if people can actually have their freedom, we're all for it. Now, if Mubarak's government is replaced by the Muslim Brotherhood, then it's going to be a downgrade, not an upgrade, for certain. So we'll have to wait and see how these things are going to happen. If, in fact, freedom reigns in Tunisia, that will be a wonderful thing. However, there are rumors there that, again, the Muslim Brotherhood is asserting its influence there. So we don't know for sure yet how this is all going to turn out. One thing we do know, Mr. Barack Obama does not breach opposition lightly. He's a very strong and determined person. He intends to get his way, and so when you have that, sometimes that can be good. Other times, that can lead you into war. So we're going to see what's going to happen. Of course, President Obama had his big speech last night. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's finish here with the statements that were made by Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. He said, revolutionary change is sweeping the Arab world with repercussions that will be felt everywhere and by all, he said. We face no less epical change in other spheres, from climate change to fighting global poverty to advancing human rights. So what they're saying is it's change, change, change. And what happens when we get into this mode of everything is changing? After a while, we don't know what we used to believe or why we believed it. I mean, everything's sweeping us along, and they're telling us that climate change is threatening the globe. We have to fight global poverty. We have to advance human rights. We see this revolution in the Middle East. And some people just want to go to work and raise their families and not be sucked into all of this turmoil that's on the global scene. So, but nevertheless, Ban Ki-moon is talking about it, and frankly, it does affect us all. General Assembly President Joseph Dice also thanked Mr. Napolitano for Italy's commitment to the UN and highlighted Italy's long-standing support for global governance. So they're talking about how Italy supports world government. I would like to emphasize that the Italian Constitution recognizes the prominent role of international organizations in ensuring peace and justice among nations. Now, among other things, the belief in global governance is certainly been heightened here because our government is, first of all, appealing to the UN for permission. It's so astounding that a vote was taken at the United Nations, but there was not a vote taken in the U.S. Congress. You know, what about this? Doesn't our Congress say that there's supposed to be a declaration of war before we send our troops into harm's way? Doesn't our Congress say that Congress has to take a vote that we should go to war? I mean, we asked the UN to. They took a vote. And President Obama did not go into Libya until he got the UN vote. And he put our troops in harm's way, but yet there's no U.S. vote. It's almost like the Congress doesn't matter, and we've now moved into this situation where the UN is running the world. Now, we know that the process of globalization, which the politicians talk about all the time, George W. Bush talked about it, President Clinton talked about it, now then we've got President Obama talking about it. So both parties have bought in to the concept that all nations are now interdependent, and therefore we're going to have to move into global governance through the process of globalization. And many people are boldly talking about we must surrender some of our sovereignty. You know, surrendering some of your sovereignty is impossible. You're sovereign or you're not. You have someone over you or you don't. So when you surrender some of your sovereignty, you surrender all of your sovereignty. So this is a slippery slope that we have to be very careful of, because that is what is, in fact, happening right now. We are going to be taking your calls in the program today. This is an important topic to discuss. Should we be doing what we're doing? Should we be involved in multilateral action? Should we be pooling our armies with the armies of the other nations of the world? And should this be an ongoing thing? Should we surrender direction to international forces such as the United Nations, such as NATO? Is global governance a good thing, or is it a bad thing? These are the big questions. If you'd like to be on the program with us today, the number to call is 877-END-TIME. That's 877-363-8463, and we'll be back in a moment.
Every Monday at 9 p.m. Central on the Church Channel and at 10 p.m. Central on Daystar, Irvin Baxter presents End of the Age. End of the Age is a 30-minute program which gives intricate details about how Bible prophecy is not only true, but also how it lines up so perfectly with events going on in the world right now. Don't miss one End of the Age program every Monday at 9 p.m. Central on the Church Channel and at 10 p.m. Central on Daystar. Visit endtime.com for more details or call 1-800-ENDTIME.
When you think about Bible prophecy or the end of the world, what comes to mind? War, destruction, famine, disease, 666, mark of the beast, antichrist, false prophet, 4 horsemen, trumpets, seals, and vials. What about 2012? How does all of this affect you as a teenager in today's world? Those are all good questions, but the thing to remember is that Bible prophecy was not put here for us to be afraid of it, but for us to know what is to come. When I was a kid, I used